Does anybody tell me what that thing is up there in the picture? It may not be big enough for you to see, but can you tell me what that is? What's that? Battery charger? No. No. It's a dialysis machine, right? Now, what does a dialysis machine do? It takes, it's because your liver or your kidneys are not functioning properly, and it takes the blood out of your body, right? And then runs it through this machine, cleans and filters all this stuff out, and then the good thing is it puts the stuff back in, right? Now, the thing is, how many people like to be on those machines? No, nobody really prefers those things. I mean, if you had that kind of circumstance, is there a difference between kidney dialysis and maybe having a new kidney? If you had to pick, which one would you rather have? Wouldn't you rather have the new kidney, right? Assuming everything goes well with the surgery and all that kind of stuff. You'd rather have one that worked naturally, automatically from the inside, rather than having to go to a place every other day for a few hours to get your blood taken out and put back in, all those different things. See, when your kidneys are failing, it's that dialysis that removes and takes it and puts it back in. See, the problem is that the mechanism for cleaning your blood is outside the body, when in reality it's supposed to be on the inside. It's supposed to be coming from inside the body. So it's a constant reminder that something is not right. And again, if you ask somebody what they would prefer, they'd prefer it to be the normal, natural way. They'd prefer to be having a new kidney. It's better when what is on the outside gets moved to the inside, when what is external becomes internal. Right? We have that same kind of concept with knowledge, right? How many of you have ever had an open book test? Now, the nice thing about having an open book test is that the knowledge can stay in the book. You just have to know where to find it, right? But what happens if they say, okay, close your books? Are you in trouble? You're lost, right? Exactly. See, you need to have the knowledge on the inside. Whereas if you don't have the book, you can still survive. See, knowledge in the book is great, but it's better if you have learned the material, that it actually becomes a part of who you are. It works the same way with character. It's great to have standards. It's great to have rules that are clear and written down, but enforcement oftentimes is on the outside. Wouldn't it be better if you didn't have to tell people to do what is right? If it came naturally and it didn't have to be taught. See, we want to move things from the outside to the inside. When you train up a child in the way he should go, what's the finish of that passage? When he is old, he will not depart from it. That's the character of it. See, we say that with the hope that you will have laid a good enough foundation in their identity that when you're not around to enforce the rules or make a decision for him or her, that they will do the right thing because it comes out from themselves. It comes from within their own heart and mind because it is who they are. Not because you're watching, not because they might get caught or in trouble, but because they trust and obey. That's the song that we were singing. Because it is from within, it is their identity. So that it becomes so much of who they are, even when they are old, they're still going to be living, acting, and deciding based upon the foundation of faith that you have laid down upon them. And God understands this. He knows, how that as long as His commands, His teachings, His instructions, what we call the law, how to hit the mark, how to please Him as long as that's on the outside, on the tablets of stone, then it's not going to be as effective. Because as soon as people think that God's not looking, what do we have a tendency to do? We have a tendency to do what we want to do. We're just like kids. But you know, we have to start somewhere. You have to start at the beginning with laying down the rules, the expectations to create the new identity. See, here we're in the book of Exodus, okay? And he is taking a people out of slavery, out of bondage, out of Egypt. He's taking the Israelites who are used to being told what to do, who are used to being slaves and not having a choice, and he is trying to mold them into citizens of a new kingdom where they are free, where they have liberty to worship him as they see fit, as he says. He's trying to create a new identity for his people. But they're not used to being free. See, it's like what George Washington and some of them say is that, this experiment that we call America with the Constitution and all that kind of stuff, numerous times they kept saying, this will only work with a morally grounded people. Because when you have freedom with people who don't have a moral grounding, what happens? It goes crazy. That's one of the biggest difference between the American Revolution and what you see happen in the French Revolution. Their concept of liberty was trying to take the church, trying to take morals out of it to where you're free to do anything you want to do. And it was chaos. God is desiring in his teachings and his law to create a new identity for his people in freedom to where they won't fall apart, but where they will be a good people. And God, he starts like any parent does with their children. He starts with the commands, with the rules, the law on the outside. And like so many children, so many even people at a new job, when we tend to try to follow the rules, oftentimes because we're afraid, right? We're afraid of doing something wrong. We're afraid of getting in trouble. We're afraid of getting disciplined or hurt or fired. When we're young, we embody the proverb that is, the fear of the Lord is what? The fear of the Lord is it's the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of knowledge, right? So what is implied in that? Obedience because of fear, obedience because you're afraid of those things, is that the start or is that the end? It is the beginning of wisdom. That's the first thing that we learn. If we stay there, is that a problem? If we stay at obedience because of fear, that's a problem, isn't it? That's like saying, okay, I'm going to move on to first grade, second grade, and third grade, but I'm not going to learn anything more than what I learned in kindergarten. That's a problem. See, the fear of the Lord is the beginning. It's the first thing. It's the first step. It's the first thing that we learn. It's the beginning and not the ending point. It's not the finishing point of obedience, but at least it is a start. And that's where God starts. He starts this in Exodus chapter 24, as we're looking about this, with the idea of covenant, entering into a legal and binding agreement, much like that of a marriage. We talked about the marriage covenant. In Exodus 24, verse 3, he says, Moses came and told the people all the commands of the Lord and all of the ordinances. And this is their response, okay? Then all the people responded with a single voice, we will do everything that the Lord has commanded. Now, why were they so quick and so willing to say that? Because right in front of them was the pillar and the cloud on top of the mountain. Right behind them, was the Red Sea and the destruction of the Egyptian military. Right behind that was the plagues that came upon Egypt. They were afraid to approach the mountain because of God's presence. And they said, Moses, you go and talk to him. We're going to hang out back here, kind of keep our distance. So we will do everything that the Lord has commanded because we don't want to get in trouble. Their fear was the starting point. Now, did they mean it? Did they live up to this? No, because fear rarely creates a long-lasting obedience. Let's keep going in this passage. It says, Moses, he wrote down all the words of the Lord. He rose early the next morning and set up an altar and 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel at the base of the mountain. Then he sent out young Israelite men, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed bulls as fellowship offerings to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and he set it in basins, and the other half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Okay, this is legal contract kind of stuff for their days. Back then, or nowadays, we sign our signature, things like that, right? And then you become bound by the terms of the contract. Well, this is the way it was done back then, when there weren't records kept like that. He says, because by sprinkling the blood on the altar, that was obligating God to his side of the covenant agreement. He made promises to the people of Israel. He made promises to Abraham, going all the back up. This is all continuing on that. He promised them descendants, and he promised them land. He promised them his presence. Okay, and by pouring the blood on the altar, this is God agreeing to his side of the terms of the covenant. Now comes the side where the people are agreeing to their side of the terms of the covenant. He then took the covenant scroll. He read it aloud to the people. They responded. Again, they said it. We will do and obey everything that the Lord has commanded. They're quick to say it because they're still living at the beginning of wisdom with the fear. So Moses took the blood and then he sprinkled it on the people. And he said, this is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you concerning all of these words. So see, covenants are cut. You're using the animals here in the blood. If either party fails to uphold their part of the covenant, then the other party has the right, legally speaking, to do to the other party what they just did to those animals. Cutting them in half or draining their blood, or there's that sense of justice. There's that sense of judgment for it. If they fail to uphold their part, the other party has the right, just like what was represented in that sacrifice. So in this moment, Moses, he built up these 12 altars. He had the people of God represented by them. He takes the half of the blood and he sprinkles it, he pours it over the altar. And that's his side. The other half of the blood he sprinkles on the people, obligating them, the people of Israel, the people of God, to the terms of the covenant. Now the question is, has God upheld his side of the covenant? Again, we stand on the promises of God. Is he ever not going to keep his word? No. He is never not going to keep his word, never going to break his promise. He never fails to live up to his side. Now, have we? Have we kept the terms of the covenant? Did the people of Israel keep the terms of the covenant? No, they did not. They have not upheld the terms. They have not upheld the instructions. They have not obeyed everything that he said because we have sinned. See, so what does that mean? What does that mean that God has the right to do? God has the right to judge us based upon the terms of his word. He has the right to judge us, to account us for the terms of the covenant. Instead, what God does, see, the one who is wronged on the covenant, they have the right to do that to the other side. But they're not obligated to do that to the other side. They can choose to do something else. They can choose to show mercy. They can choose to take the loss. Or they can choose to take the penalty themselves. And see, that's what God did. we deserved to have the punishment poured out upon us. We deserved to be cut into pieces and have our blood poured out. And instead, he took the penalty upon himself at the cross. He took the punishment that we deserve in terms of the covenant. Is he fulfilling the covenant? Yes. He is fulfilling the terms of the covenant that we have broken by taking the penalty on himself. This is a covenant that is continuing. This is a covenant that is ongoing. This is the thing that we need to realize. We call it the old covenant. But more and more I'm starting to dislike that term old. Especially as I'm getting older, I'm liking the term old, like the way we use it, less and less. Because calling it old is a misnomer. The old covenant, I think, should be better known maybe as the first covenant. Because old implies, the way we use it implies that it's outdated. It implies that it's worn out. It implies that it's not good for anything anymore. Right? How many of you would describe yourselves as old? Okay. Does that mean that you're bad and worn out and no good? Now, some of y'all are saying yes. You're missing my point. Now, let me put it to you like this. How many times has there been times where younger people treat you with that kind of an attitude that you're not worth anything anymore? Government can treat us like that. Yeah, I mean, you read about the concepts of the death panels and different things like that with healthcare related things that, you know what, you're too old for us to waste the resources to make you better. That's part of our national discussion these days. Okay, we've heard that kind of talk at least thrown out there. But see, this is a covenant from God. And this covenant is also God's word. And how long does God's word last? Yeah. His word endures forever. So when we talk about old, it's something it's going to still be enduring. It's still going to be lasting forever. It's never going to be worn out. It's never going to go bad. It's never going to disappear. Jesus himself said that. Not one jot or tittle will disappear from the law until all is fulfilled. So it's not going away. See, he promises his descendants land and he promises his people descendants, land, and his presence. And he calls for obedience. And right now he is in these terms of the covenant. They're written down. You go through the 10 Commandments. They're written down on those stone tablets. And it goes with them. And he calls us to obedience. And he's trying to grow his children, his people, to obey. Not because they're in fear. Not because they're afraid like a child. But in faithfulness and in love. He is desiring to get us to obey because we love him. In fact, Jesus said what? If you love me, you will what? Obey my commands. See, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The love of God, that's the goal. Obeying him because we love him, that is the goal. See, that's the hard part of this whole situation, is that the commands were coming from the outside and working in. They were going from the outside in. They were written on those stone tablets, a lot like traffic signs when you're driving down the road. Y'all see these before, or ones like them? When you're driving down the road, you see them, you acknowledge them. How many times do you ignore them? You're nodding back there. I'm seeing a few smiles. See, it's easy. Yeah, don't you point at them because I know you've done it. It's easy to ignore that sign, isn't it? It's easy to blow right past it because it's something that they're telling you to do, but you may not want to do. You may think that you've got a better reason why you are justified in going faster. You may think that, but is the cop going to necessarily buy that? No, not necessarily. See, it's easy to ignore them or disregard them. Same thing with signs like this. How many of you seen people ignore this sign? Now, this one's more dangerous to ignore, isn't it? But still people do it, don't they? It's on the outside working in. And you know what sign disturbs me the most that people miss and people ignore? It's this one. I hate it when I hate the fact that we have to have this sign up there in the bathroom. You go into any restaurant, any place like that, they're going to have a sign that says employees must wash their hands. Now, why did they have to start putting a sign up there? Because some people weren't doing it. And that is gross. That is disturbing to think that they felt the need to put a sign like that up in the bathroom because people were going to the bathroom and they were not washing their hands before they came out. See, I would rather that they be motivated to do the right thing without a sign telling them that they should. I would rather them want to wash their hands rather than being told to wash their hands. Would y'all agree with me on that? I would much rather them do it because that's who they are, not because a sign told them to. See, what God intended to be liberty and freedom and how a people are to live and exist in relationship with each other in freedom, that's what his goal and his intention is. But it became a struggle because their hearts were just as hard and corrupted as Pharaoh's back in Egypt. They were obeying because they were in fear, because they were starting at that point of fear of getting caught. But if they thought they could get away with it, they would do it anyway. If they thought they could get away with it. See, they were being told to rather than wanting to. They were living with dialysis when what they really needed was a transplant. They were living with it on the outside when they needed it to be on the inside. And since God is Jehovah Rapha, he is the Lord my healer, he is the great physician, he knows the diagnosis that we have, and he knows what we need for the cure. And his intention was always to be moving those same commands, that same law, from the outside to the inside. He would always rather it be written on his heart. And that's why he starts talking about the new covenant, where it's a new heart and a new spirit, where obedience is not a matter of external enforcement, but of inward character. See, he tells us that we need a heart transplant. That's Ezekiel 36, verse 24. All of this talk about the new covenant, it's still in the Old Testament. See, Jesus builds on that truth. He doesn't make up that truth. This is all in the old, what we call the old. He says, "For I will take you from the nations, and I will gather you from all the countries, and will bring you into your own land." Again, there's that promise. "I will also sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your impurities and all of your idols." That's that process of sanctification, being set apart, being made holy. He says, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you." You know, we didn't think something like that was possible until, the 1960s? Was when they first started doing heart transplants? And yet God was saying, look, I can do it. I can do it anytime. I've been able to do it all along. And he says, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove your heart of stone." It's hard to work with stone, isn't it? It takes a chisel. It takes some pounding. It doesn't move very well. So I will take and remove your heart of stone and will give you a heart of flesh. He says, "Then I will place my spirit within you and cause you." Notice what the role of the Spirit. The Spirit had not been given for this purpose until the new covenant is applied. I will place my Spirit within you and cause you to do what? To follow my statutes and carefully observe my ordinances, my commands, my law. That's what the Spirit is supposed to do. Take it from the outside and move it to the inside. Take those commands that were written in stone and move them in here. He goes on and says, verse 28, then you will live in the land. See, then, it's an if-then kind of statement. It's a conditional kind of statement. See, right now, you're not experiencing, you're not fulfilling, you're not experiencing the fullness of my promise because you haven't lived up to the terms of the covenant. But so I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you a new heart. I'm going to give you my Spirit so that you will want to and be able to live up to the covenant, because I'm going to make you holy. Then you will live in the land. Then you will experience the fullness of my promise fulfilled that I gave to your fathers, and you will be my people, and I will be your God. This heart transplant requires this gathering of his people back to his land, a passing through the waters, essentially, again, and an abandonment of all other attachments, all other gods that could take his place. And with our new heart, we get this new Spirit. Promised Holy Spirit fulfilled by Jesus at Pentecost in Acts chapter 2. That was when the new covenant was being fulfilled, when the debt of the old covenant was paid by his own blood being poured out. First covenant and the new covenant. See, the purpose, that's what this purpose of the new Spirit is, to move the commandments of God, which were on the outside, to the inside. I will place my Spirit within you and cause you to follow my statutes and carefully observe my ordinances. None of the commandments changed in this new covenant. The terms have not changed. The laws have not changed. The only thing that's changed in all of this, the difference between the old and the new, or the first and the new, the only thing that's different is its location. It's no longer on the outside. The new covenant is the same law, the same Torah, the same commandments, the same instructions, with the same people. What's new is its location. The new covenant is moving from the outside to the inside by this means of this heart transplant, which creates a new desire, a new want to in his people, a new desire to please him, a new desire to grow in him, a new desire to be more like him. That's why it moves from the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It moves then to, if you love me, you will obey me. It becomes a want to at that point. We obey not out of fear, not because we're told to, not because we have to, but because we want to, because we desire to please our master, and most importantly, because of love. Jesus said if we loved him, we would obey him. And he says his commands are the same. You look at, I don't have these slides prepared, but John 8:28 says this. It says, so Jesus said, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am the one I claim to be, and that I do nothing on my own, but speak just what the Father has taught me. He's not going to say anything different that goes against the word and command of his Father. Chapter 14 says a very similar thing. Verse 24 says this. He says, he who does not love me will not obey my teaching. These words you hear are not my own. they belong to the Father who sent me. See, the commands don't change. The location is what changes. That's the new covenant. We read about that in Jeremiah. Jeremiah 31. Again, new covenant in the Old Testament. He says, look, the days are coming. This is the Lord's declaration. When I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. So it's the same people that he's talking to. It's the same kingdom that he's talking to. It's the same citizenship that he's talking to. And it's the citizenship that we gain. Even though we're not Jews, even though we're not in the land, we gain citizenship in the kingdom of God. That's what Paul talks about in Ephesians. You who were far away have been brought near through the blood of the Messiah. You didn't have the promises. You didn't have the citizenship. You didn't have all that stuff. But now in Messiah you do. Okay? So he is making this new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. This one will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, a covenant they broke, even though I had married them. It was in terms of a marriage covenant. This is the Lord's declaration. He says, instead, this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, the Lord's declaration. I will put my teaching, my Torah, my law, within them, and I will write it on their hearts. That's the beauty. That's the picture of it. Now that we've been given a new heart, it's going to have all of that stuff written in here by the finger of God. It says, I will be their God, and they will be my people. It says, no longer will one teach his brother or his neighbor or his brother, saying, know the Lord. In other words, you're not going to have to put up street signs on the road telling them what the speed limit is. It's not going to be on the outside. You're not going to have to teach them to say, know the Lord, for they will all know me. They will know what my teachings are. They will know what pleases me. They will know and want to obey because, not because of fear, but because of love. Because we have grown from that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We've grown to, if you love me, you will obey me. From the least to the greatest. You're not going to have to be the smartest person. You're not going to have to be the most powerful person. If you know the Lord, if you are a part of this new covenant, this is written on your heart. This is who you are. This is now your identity. That makes sense? He says, this is the Lord's declaration, for I will forgive their wrongdoing and never again remember their sin. Never again hold it against me. The new covenant is still for the people of God, the people of Israel, the house of Judah. And if we are in Messiah, then we have been made citizens of this kingdom, adopted into the family of God. We have been given that new identity. We have been given a heart transplant that changes us from the citizens of the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of the Son. He has removed our heart of stone. He's given us this heart of flesh. It's a blood transfusion, essentially, because we've been covered in the blood, not of animals, not of bulls and goats, but with the precious blood of Messiah. The book of Hebrews talks about this. It's also, you could say it's also like a data download. How many of y'all, you use computers and things like that? You have those little jump drives that you carry around memory and files and important things. You just plug it into the next computer and it takes all that information. We've received a new instructions in the new covenant. It's been written on our hearts. It's been downloaded to our internal. It's no longer external anymore. So we should be growing into obeying, not out of fear or punishment and damnation, but out of love for our King and our Father. Now we obey God's word, God's commandments, because it's coming from the inside out. We shouldn't have to have a sign telling us to wash our hands because we want to. And notice in all of this, that the Israelites, they're at the foot of Mount Sinai, right? Had they already been delivered from Egypt? Had they already been set free? Yes. They were set free unto these commands. The covenant is about relationship. God is not giving them a new bondage, but He's letting them know what pleases them. He's letting them know that He is making them into a new nation. He's letting them know how to live in freedom. How do the people of God live in their freedom? How do we live in our salvation? This is the covenant. This is His word, His commandments. That's what lets us know how to live as the people of God. This is, in a lot of ways, I'll put it to you like this is kind of the last thing here. These are like the instructions that we receive from the doctor after having surgery. Y'all have all heard those kind of instructions before, right? When they give you something, after a heart transplant or any other kind of procedure, they'll tell you what you need to change in your life. For what reason? Why do they tell you that stuff? So you don't end up right back in the same place needing a new procedure, whatever it happens to be. They'll tell you things like, what kind of things did they tell you after like a heart transplant or after something else like that? What do they tell you? Change what you eat, right? Get more at rest, more exercise, right? Now, what can you do with that advice from the doctor? Can you listen to him? Or can you ignore him? How many of y'all are better at ignoring the doctor than listening to the doctor? Uh-huh. See, especially as men, we can be pretty stubborn, can't we? And so we may not listen to what the doctor has to say. You have a choice to listen to them or to ignore them. See, the commandments of God, the teaching, the Torah, the law of God, the new covenant, that's supposed to be written on your new heart. And you have to choose to listen to them. You have to make the decision whether you're going to follow the doctor's orders, the great physician's orders on how to live, how to treat your brothers and sisters in Christ, how to treat the lost. So the question is, have you had that heart transplant? Have the commands of God moved from the outside to the inside? Have they moved from the have to the want to? Do you still obey God out of fear instead of love? Because see, if it's still on a matter of fear, God has still got some growing in you to do, to where He wants you to obey and follow Him because you love Him. Love is the goal. Love is where God would rather have you be, because love is what will last for eternity. These three things remain: faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. That is what remains. It's our love for Him, more importantly, His love for us. And again, He paid the debt. He paid the price. He paid the terms of the